Hi there. It's been a long while. Um, no excuses. Just I've been kind of preoccupied. Um, one of the lessons I learned growing up. You know, I think I just some of these things they just kind of dawn on you. Um, um, and yeah, I think I actually spent more of the time, walking through, you know, the grieving process. Having lost my dad, it just comes full cycle because I remember growing up, either I overheard this, or but it's one of these things that just kind of sticks with you. And it said that every time a new baby cried, to signal it's the beginning of life. Somewhere, um, another family, somewhere, an individual or family is weeping because they they've just lost someone. So I've always seen life as kind of a revolving door. People going through, and people coming in. Um, I think it actually had to do with the birth of my cousin. That was in 1990. Yeah. So hi. Welcome. This is another video on the YouTube channel that I've captioned behind closed doors. And so if this is your first time watching this, I want to say welcome, and hi. I hope you're well. My name is Ryan. Um, thank you for those of you who subscribed. And if this is your first time seeing me, you're not in the wrong place. Nothing happens without a reason, and so you're here listening for a reason. So I just want to welcome you. Um, and I would also appeal that you subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications. It's the button with the bell thingy. So when I post new videos, you get to see it. Please like the videos and share, because the aim is to grow this into a global platform where we can all come and just talk about um, the different scenarios we all go through, because they say all fingers are not equal, and so the fact that you are going through a storm, no matter how light or how heavy it is, um, talking about it really helps, especially for mental health. It helps. So welcome. I know I wrapped up my first relationship. Yeah, but I'm just gonna start this off with um, the man of life, um, and it's Psalms 27 verse 14. Yeah, it says, wait for the Lord, be strong and courageous. Wait for the Lord. It's one of those verses that you realize, it's not just a cliche. It's not just one of these things that you just commit to memory, and it just stays there. Waiting for God is a process that is inexplicably tied to our lives as Christians, our lives as individuals, our lives as parents and young adults and old adults and whatever. We just have to wait for Him, because everything happens in His timing. And some of these two traits are very important, during the wait. And it doesn't say wait on, it says wait for. And so that just attests to the fact that, we are spiritual beings embarking on a human journey, spiritual beings having a human experience, or embarking on a human journey. And so it's really important that we, I need to stop saying, it's really important that we understand that many of the plans in a man's hand, but it's God's decree. It's what God says that stands. And so who better than the one who created all things? Who better than Him to direct our steps, direct my steps? And so, waiting. I used to be, I think I still struggle with it, patience. I've always not been a very patient person. And, right now, living with dystonia, it hasn't really helped with my patience because of the recurring pain. But having said that, I want to apologize, because it's been a long time, but like I said, it was just trying to process, the transition of my dad. And, you're just like going through the memories we created, the memories we created together. And, I know many people have told me this, but, kind of walking through the guilt of helplessness, not being able to help him the way he taught me to help, and the way he showed me to help. It's something that I have, I still have to. I'm almost dealing with. I know how to live with it for the rest of my life. But helping others it's critical. It's critical to our well-being. It's critical to our journey as humans. It's critical to our purpose in life. Being able to help someone. I always tell this to people, when I come across them, very few people these days. I tell them, I said, if people could just be a little bit more kinder, a little bit kinder, and a little bit more sincere in their relationship with others, just a little bit kind, a little bit of kindness. Because asking someone, how are you, it's supposed to be an expression of concern, but not anymore these days. People just ask you, and and it's funny because when people ask me, and I don't respond, maybe because I'm reevaluating the few relationships that I still have going. I kind of don't answer that, because I want to know if the person who's asking the question really wants to know how I'm doing. And for me, when I ask how are you, no matter how evasive you are, I'll still come around to it and ask you, because I want to know how you're doing. And so waiting for God can be, it's a process. What you do while you're waiting really counts, because nature, life abhors nature. Life abhors a vacuum. So, you know, when there's a vacuum, something fills it, and we have to be careful with what we fill it with. And so, it's been a long wait, but I'm still waiting. So with regards to my first relationship, I want to thank those of you who reached out to me, who commented, or who asked questions, and who kind of gave me their own take on their relationship. And it was fine, because I had to revisit some of the questions that I had asked myself, as that relationship kind of imploded. But I thank you, because this is not, it's not, I'm not keeping a diary. I'm just walking through my own journey. And it's funny, because I was talking with an old mate, a mate from college, from university, and with different countries. And this is somebody that I don't think I'd barely said a word to, because he kind of described me in school, and he said that he's surprised that I'm laughing on the phone. So, because back in the days, I always seemed like a man on a mission, and I wouldn't smile, and I wouldn't talk to people I didn't know, and all that. And he's not the first person saying it, but we get to know who we are when others talk about, when you make other people talk about you, or talk about themselves, with regards to their relationship with you. And something he said, so when I said, I got married as a virgin, and then he said, yeah, I think that also played a role. I told him no, he didn't. It didn't, because knowledge, information is power, and that's what we usually occupy ourselves with, or most people occupy themselves with, as they journey through life. It's about acquiring education and knowledge and wisdom. And so I told him, I said, it's not about not having any sexual experience. I said, far from it, because physical intimacy is key in relationships, but it's actually what and the plans you have, because we all have plans, we all have goals. Most of us have plans, have goals, and so we preoccupy ourselves with trying to attain those milestones and those goals as we walk through life. And so I told him, I said, no, it has nothing to do with, physical intimacy had nothing to do with it. I said, because I saw the red flags. But I made a conscious, I made conscious decisions that every of these, every time there were issues, I made conscious choices regarding how I wanted to, deal with it. And yes, I came away from that relationship with things that I needed to work on to better myself. how to become a better person, a better individual, how to become a parent, because I had my daughter, how to become a better parent, how to become a better individual, how to become, just better. Scripture says iron sharpens iron, and so again, goes back to tell me who your friends are, tell me the kind of company you keep, and I'll tell you who you will become. And so I told him, I said it had absolutely nothing, physical, physical intimacy. The fact that I went into that relationship without being physically intimate with a woman beforehand, zero. I said, because I knew what to do. I knew how to how to navigate. I knew the rules of intimacy and all that. So it had nothing to do with it. And I don't know if he agreed, but again, we're all individuals with our own idiosyncrasies, and with the interpretations we make, but physical intimacy had nothing to do with it, because there was no love lost. I told him, I said, I am pretty intense when I want to learn something. I try to learn it as much as I do. However, the truth is you can't know everything about something, and that's why life is all about learning. And these days, it almost seems like there's this huge vacuum that I'm just trying to fill. It feels like it's my life has become like a revolving door. Medical visits, time with my kids, and then just waiting for God, because I know this is not my destination. This could be a rest area, because I did trucking, so a rest area where you just pull in and take a nap or something. But I came away with it, with the scars that have turned into not stars, but they've turned into like patches, or epaulets. Every patch meaning something, every scar representing a phase, both physical and emotional scars. And it just made me refocus. It made me reorientate myself, one on acknowledging that there's still a few good women out there, and I had a joke the other day, and the person said that when God created man, he said all was good, and and I and that God didn't have created women until he saw that men didn't really understand that they had a purpose to life. So he said, no, he said, okay, I'm going to show you, because the story of Adam, going through life, and naming all the animals and being in charge of the Garden of Eden, but deep down, he lacked companionship. That cannot be understated. We all require that aspect, that it's an intrinsic nature as a social animal, the ability to relate with others, the ability to be in relationships, all forms of relationships. He said, I've heard so many interpretations. There's one I saw or I heard. It says that if you when you married and your partner becomes unfaithful, the best thing you can, the best way you can respond to that is to leave her with the person she's been unfaithful. Just let her go. And then there's this other one that says, getting into a relationship is like getting into a restaurant and ordering a meal with a friend. And then when the dishes, or when the dishes arrive, you now suddenly look across and you see your friend zone and you realize, oh, I want my friend zone. But it's all about how we interpret life, and that really shapes us. It shapes us. And so it do I regret anything about the first one? No, because I personally think regrets kind of are like a speed bump. If you spend too much time there, you're not really moving forward. And if you're not forward oriented, if you're not focused ahead, depending on the height of the bump, you could get stuck on it, because you require power to go over the bump. And I remember growing up and learning how to drive, and back in the days when you wouldn't do something with the vehicle and it would stop, and you have to push it, and pushing it over a speed bump used to be tough, because if you didn't push it through, it would roll backwards. And so I don't have regrets. I just know that there are things I could have done better, because you can change the people around you, but you can't change the people around you. And what do I mean? I mean, you can change the company you keep, because bad company will always bring out the worst in us. But you can change the company you keep, but you can't change the people themselves. We've not been called to the task of fixing people. And I think I went into my first relationship with just a smidget of that, thinking I could change people or change her. Not necessarily changing anything, but just like I said, I went into it believing that if you put someone in the right environment, you empower the person to make good choices. But the truth is, there's some people who just will always make bad choices. It's just something. It's a habit they form. Because what are habits? Habits are thoughts and actions that have become expressed, over a long period of time, and they become habits. So yeah, I walked away from that, and that was a few years before I got diagnosed, and so I had to sell everything I owned, and begin again. And it was tough, but now it's even tougher because of my health. it's really debilitating. But I just choose to go. I just choose to continue because I don't know how to quit. I don't know how to give up. Because if I did, I probably might have given up. Like I usually say, there are verses in the Bible that stick with me, and one of them is First Samuel 30 verse 6. It says David encouraged himself in the Lord, and we'll have to know how to do that, because there will be times when you just be all by yourself, and you don't jump into a relationship because you're lonely. You know, life is all about relationships, and so depending on the kind of relationship. But for marital relationships, you don't start them because you're lonely. That's not the reason. You start them because it's two good heads are better than one. Um, you need company. You need company. This journey we call life, and getting the right companion. It's it's super important. Super important. So this is me coming back, posting this and just trying to be strong, and trying to be courageous, renewing my strength, renewing my courage to just keep going on, especially moments when it feels like nothing is happening. When it seems like my life has just been reduced to a series of hospital visits, and church. So, the days it seems like that's I wake up, and it seems like I have to ask God what's good for today, um, which I do, I've always done, but now, like I said, I still have things in boxes, um, and you just wonder, what is fuss about life. The other day I saw a bird, and I was looking at it. I was in motion. If not, I was taking a photograph with my phone, and I saw the bird, and I remembered, Romans 8, where God talks about, can worrying add inches to your height. Why embark on things that you can't change anything about that? And I was looking at, while I was looking at the bird, I said, this bird it's not asking. It didn't ask itself, what do I wear today? How am I going to make more money? It doesn't. It just trusts its maker. It was digging for worms or something. Um, and so we just have to prepare ourselves for those inevitable periods where you're all by yourself. You're all by yourself. You have to dig deep, and encourage yourself to just keep going, because that's basically what God expects of us. Not for us to not for us to wear out. There's this saying that it's better to wear out than to rust away, because you wear out because you're doing stuff, but rust happens when oxygen meets iron just been left there. And so sometimes you wear yourself out by trying to improve yourself, and I think that's the phase I'm in, waiting and hoping, and hopeful for the next phase, and hoping that I've prepared myself for the next phase. And so feel free to drop a comment, send an email to me, something you want to talk about, your own story. And like I've always said, that the plan is to grow this to a platform where I can stream it live and have people call in and share their own experiences, and have people speak up on things, like my daughter talk about her feelings, how she felt, having her parents divorce, how that has affected her. So it's right now she's super busy, but hopefully I'll be able to get her here. So I hope I wasn't rambling on this. I just want to, I have to keep going. I have to keep going. I realized that every time I wanted to make a video, I would talk myself out of it. I said, no, that's not who I am. Consistency. One of the things I learned from my dad early on was this quote. Can't recall by who. It says the greatest battle we fight in life is trying to be yourself in a world that consistently wants to make you someone else. And I'm meant to stop fighting. It's all over. It's all over because society wants you to become someone else, but you just have to stick to yourself. But it's also important that you know who you are, and it's important that you ascertain and validate your identity, because if you don't know if you don't know who you are, then how do you know what your purpose is? And so I'm going to go into my experience in my second relationship, and hopefully we're able to learn one or two new things. And so for now, it's going to be bye. I look forward to seeing you when I post the next video. And like I always say, the very fact that you are still listening to this, you're still watching this, it just it gives credence to this truth that God isn't done with you yet. So the very fact that you're still watching till now, just keep your chin up. Keep your chin up. God isn't done with you yet. He's the one who has the final say. So until next time, keep your chin up. All right. Bye.